All right, welcome everyone. I'm not sure who's online tonight. So before we get started, if there's anyone here, if you could just give me a thumbs up if the sound is okay. I've just swapped headphones and I can't see anyone on at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and get started unless I hear from someone. Beautiful. All right. Thanks, William. I can see there's one person online, so you'll have the recording for this anyway. So first of all, welcome. This is the first Facebook Live in this group, and many of you I've met before, and there's a few new faces on the group. So I want to set a really clear intention as to why I've started this group and invited you all to be here. So I really have a yearning to work deeply with men. I've been working with men and women around integrated sexuality and relationships for some time, but I really feel there's a gap in men being supported by women. I know there's a lot of work out there for men, but I also feel that it's also good to honor the divine feminine in all of us, so all of us having both masculine and feminine qualities. And this group is really about being integrated as a man. What does a modern integrated man look like sexually as a leader in his power? The authenticity of being you, because today, in today's society, men are feeling lost. You know, they're lacking amazing role models. They're lacking these teachings. They're lacking the space and the community around being integrated in their sexuality, being integrated in their spiritual body and in their emotional body. And there's a huge amount of guilt and shame that's being loaded on. There's loss of identity, and there's a myth that men just don't need help and support. So part of this group is that honoring the masculine and really offering support for each other. So this is a safe space for you to all express your needs, and for me, hopefully along the way, to give you some sort of support, some sort of guidance, some sort of input from the feminine aspect. So that's my intention. Tonight we're going to dive into relationships. So over the last few weeks, I've been working privately with a few men, and it seems the most common topic that's coming up is relationships and this real yearning to be deeply connected with a loved one. So whether you're in a relationship or not in a relationship. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to check in with whoever is online. I know that's Will and someone else. Whoever else is online, would you mind giving me, hi Jason, nice to see you, super. Maybe both of you could maybe type in the comments box. I'm pretty new to Facebook Live. What's brought you here tonight? Like, what is your particular interest in this work, or even relationships specifically? Well, I've just shifted screens. Excuse me while I just go back to my original screen. So yeah, maybe one of you could type in the comments box. Oops. What has brought you on to tonight's call? What's your particular interest in relationship topics? And if there is nothing in particular, then I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Yeah, so I'm just getting a few private messages through Facebook. So I'm just going to take a look at those. Yep, super. Okay, so what I'm noticing in the field at the moment is that there is a real yearning to get deeply connected to our loved ones. And there is so much potential in intimate relationships to be a container for evolution, to be a container for spiritual evolution, for personal development, and for healing of the individual's wounds. Because relationships are essentially a platform for not only the individual, but for the relationship as an entity to thrive far greater than if they're alone. So we have the capacity as two to thrive even beyond the development as one. but many couples are suffering. There is missing bits in relationships. We've been misguided. We've had missed opportunities. We've lacked amazing role models. We've lacked love elders in our community. Most of us didn't have amazing parenting around relationships. And so we're really yearning to, to have these tools and to have this deep connection. And almost everyone on this planet is really longing for this deep, connected, lasting love and this amazing sex within a relationship. So over the coming weeks, we're going to dive deep around sexuality. Because one of our deepest cravings is to have these naked, raw, and this true love, this desire, as well as sexual fulfillment. So not only friendships and intimacy and companionship, but to have amazing, passionate sex lives that hopefully take us through to our later years. And this is where most people feel the fears. This is where most people have blockages, because, when we stand on the edge of this, the potentiality of like deep, passionate, fulfilling sex lives, our blocks will come up, our roadblocks and our fears will come up. And so how do we use relationship as an area to evolve and grow and bloom and blossom and work through those blocks together and essentially see each other fully? And I feel that this is an area to be fully explored within relationship. So it's about creating time for communication. It's about introducing healthy communication styles that support intimacy. It's about having love and passion. And it is also about having a really great sex life. So I'm going to go through my core philosophy of what it means to have a healthy, functioning relationship. So what is the container of relationship, and what does it mean to have a healthy, functioning relationship? So my first philosophy is that relationships, and I'm going to read this part because I've written lots of words, relationships are not just about two people. It's about two inner children, two inner biologies, four ancestral lineages, two hearts, two genitals, two inner judges and critics, two primal brains, two stories, two karmas, two spiritual paths, and a lot of emotional baggage from the past. So when we understand how much is really at play within relationships, we understand why they can get so complicated and so challenging and so deep. So when we realize there's so many dynamics at play. The second philosophy I have around intimate relationships is that if you can change your inner reality, then you can change your outer reality. And there's two schools of thought on this. The first one is that, if we work on ourselves as an individual, then we will, of course, add value to the relationship. But there is also seeing the relationship itself as an entity unto its own. And so the relationship also needs to be worked on. So we must work on ourselves as an individual, and we also must come together as a couple and see this as our life's work to work on the relationship. There's truths to both of those, and I think they're both really important things to bear in mind when we're working on ourselves as relationships. And the third philosophy I have is the overall intention for the relationship affects the entire relationship. And this is a really important topic. I believe many of us go into relationships and we don't really have clear intention for what this relationship is about. We just see someone across a crowded room. There is chemistry. We find them attractive. We go into a relationship with them. We have wild, passionate sex, and then that kind of leaves, and we kind of wonder what this was actually about in the first place, because very few relationships are intentional. And often people are acting from adopted social inheritance, like we take on the beliefs from our family that we should reach, a certain age, that we should get married, that we should have children, and we should live for this person happily for the rest of our lives, or most likely unhappily, and most likely with not a lot of passion. And that's the big problem is in relationships. People are looking to have this long-lasting passion, and we don't question it. We live through this modern new world of marriage, of church patriarchy, of society, and we don't question this form of relationship. So my question for you tonight is, even if you go out of this video, out of this live chat, and you go, I need to work out what the intention of my relationship is, or reassess what the intention of my intimate relationship with this person is, then I think that can be a life-changing moment for you, definitely a definitive moment in your relationship. So rarely do we create these intentions, and as time goes by in relationships, it's really important that we also upgrade our intention for the relationship. So whilst we might have come together initially because there was wild sexual chemistry between us, and then we might have children, so for procreation, we might come together just for companionship, and then we might evolve into something like a consort relationship, which we'll be talking about in the coming weeks. And so it's important that we have these open discussions with our partner. Where are we at in our relationship? What is our intention now for our relationship? And the fourth philosophy that I want to share with you is that unconscious, subconscious, and conscious beliefs, thoughts, and emotions, and conditioning and habits affect our relationships. And although this sounds super obvious, it's amazing how many people don't think about this. People tend to think that their relationship, if they find the right partner, then things will just work, that they'll fall in love and, you know, happily ever after, rather than thinking about all the unconscious and subconscious beliefs that go on to bring this relationship together in the beginning, essentially. The fifth really important note that I'd like to share with you is that trauma in relationship is often unrecognized, and it's one of those insidious problems that may not rear its head until a little while after the honeymoon period has worn off, but trauma will arise in a relationship in order for it to be healed. And we can recognize that not everyone has trauma, but many of us do have, you know, unreleased, unworked with traumas. And if we don't have direct trauma, then we will have some sort of trauma within our history, whether that be ancestral, whether that will be society trauma, or whether that will just be the idea that we have taken on some trauma somewhere along the line. And this deeply, deeply affects us sexually. It affects the behavior in our relationships. It affects our triggers, our attachment styles. And so healing of trauma within a relationship is so, so important in order to end projection and suffering. So it's one of the key things that I work on with couples, is that they're both able to hold each other in a space of clearing these traumas. And this is where the gem lies, because I believe when you do it within a relationship, within a couplehood, and you're guided through by a teacher or a mentor or a coach, then you're actually able to safely release these traumas and be witnessed by your partner, which can be incredibly, incredibly powerful. So yeah, it's really important that people understand what their traumas are, release them, and stop projecting these traumas on their partner. It makes a huge difference to the relationship. The next philosophy that I want to share with you is that people do come together to heal. They come together to evolve, and they come together to experience, not necessarily until death do us part, because death can just mean the death of this particular time in our lives, this particular relationship. And it doesn't mean that it's a negative thing if we decide to separate or divorce, that it can actually be, again, a beautiful rebirth into something else. And so we need to reframe what death do us part actually means. And of course, we've taken on this through the church and through society. So helping couples heal and evolve and experience together and focus on the quality rather than the quantity the quality rather than the quantity of years together. So it's about the quality of the relationship, not how many years they've had together. We all know those relationships that have been together 50 years, but man, they're suffering, right? You can see it on their faces. They've lived a passionless life, and that's not what we want, right? We want to have this wild, passionate, intimate, communicative relationship until the next relationship, or until the death of this relationship and the incarnation of the next relationship. So sometimes a couple does need to separate, right? And that doesn't mean that the relationship has failed. It actually means that you were able to witness the beauty of the relationship for that amount of time, and then it's time for a next evolution. So focusing on the richness and the quality of the relationship rather than on how long it lasts. And the next important point I want to talk about is biology is important, but it's often less important than conditioning. So in a nutshell, if you don't like how someone smells, you don't like how someone smells, and that won't ever change. We can't force that. However, people are wired differently, and conditioning is even more important. So we can work with biology, we can actually work with the underlying drivers, but also how our conditioning affects biology. So, you know, going back to this primal energy of like, how does someone smell? What do they look like to you? What is your particular archetype? What are you drawn to? We can work with that. You know, they're all things that can be observed, witnessed, and evolved from there. Another really important point of, you know, what is the container of a relationship is that at first sex is about biology and projection. So we meet someone, we fall in love, we're having this amazing, wild, passionate sex. But as we know, after around 18 months to 3 years, and the evidence is out of how long it actually takes, but we lose these honeymoon chemicals, and so the sex is not as passionate, or is perceived to be not as passionate as it first was. But guess what? You actually can stay passionate and you can thrive for years, and it's a practice. These are actually tools and practices that you can learn. We just weren't taught them. We just weren't given the right manual, if we were given any manual at all. So the important point in this philosophy is that if a couple recognizes sex as much more than just biology, so much more than just coming together to fuck and to produce children, then you can start to see sex as healing and as personal evolution that produces a much deeper, passionate, much more connected lovemaking, much more exciting lovemaking in the long term. So, you know, whilst the initial oxytocin and all of those chemicals can wear off, we can have a much longer, much deeper, much more connected, much more thriving and passionate sex life if we have the tools to work with it, if we have the tools to work with polarity. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sharing with you on, pardon me, many of these topics, including sexually, like how do we have relationships sexually thriving? How do we have them thriving through our communication? How do we have them thriving through our connection? So it's really important in your relationships that you start to get clarity. What is the purpose of my relationship right now? Where am I at in the evolution of this relationship? Perhaps you've just come together because you're wanting to have children. Perhaps you've raised children and you're like, now what happens next? I'm kind of lost in this. It's kind of like hanging out with a flatmate and there's not a whole lot of passion. So where do you take the relationship now? How do you define the relationship at this stage of your life? The other really important tool that I'll be sharing is connection. How do we build this connection back with our loved ones again? You know, often we live very parallel lives, particularly if we've been in relationships for long term. You know, we're managing children and work and things like that, and our partners seem to be the last one that we're communicating with. We're on our mobile devices, we're online a lot, and we've lost the art of communication. So I'll be taking you through some very simple communication exercises that you can use with your partner. The next one is like deep healing sexually, not only for the relationship, so I'll be sharing with you some techniques that you can use within the relationship, but more importantly for you as men, how do we unwind all the sexual conditioning that we've received, both men and women, through society? Like, how do you fuck in a way that is more connected to your heart, not just through your cock? I notice in the men that I'm working with, there is a deep yearning for something bigger, something larger, something more powerful than just having like a quick fuck, that there is a real deep yearning for connection through your heart to your lover's heart, and it's just a matter of connecting up the dots again. So we'll be diving deep around sexual practices and sexual healing within the relationship, and also unwinding that conditioning in your own body. And then in the realms of relationship, we'll be talking about intimate sexual eroticism. How do we start to build or rebuild or rekindle that eroticism that we had with our loved ones? And we start to build that through ourselves first, you know, the way we wire our own pleasure, the way we wire masturbation in our own bodies is the way we make love to our partners. So I'll be sharing practice with you to unwind your conditioning around how you self-pleasure, how you feel your body, because the way that you feel your body is the way that you're able to feel another's body. So this is about getting intimately connected through your sexuality, and the way you get connected to you is the way you're able to show up as the man in the relationship, the way you're able to penetrate your woman in that way. So I'm super excited to be showing these topics. I know there's just a couple of you online. I know William and Jason. Are there any particular, I know I asked before, but if you want to type into the comments, are there any particular topics that you're excited to dive into or curious to dive into over the coming weeks? Or any questions? If you're a really slow typer, that's okay, so am I. I'm still doing one finger typing. No comments from, I can see 6 comments, but I can't see where they are, so I'm just going to have a look. Okay, so William wanting to get clear about himself. Jason, self-development, yeah, super. And wanting to get connected. So Jason said, I want to get connected so deeply on a spiritual level. So for you, Jason, is it about connecting spiritually through your sexuality? And I'm not sure who's online. Someone else has just jumped online. So yeah, one of the common, as I just mentioned before, so one of the most common yearnings I hear in men is really wanting to connect their sex with their spirit. So connect their cock with their heart, like really yearning to, yeah, to feel something larger, like, yeah, a connection to God or universe or source or whatever it is. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that, Jason. I'm just going to read on the private messages and just see what's come up. Yeah, so it seems, yeah. Okay, super. Yeah, so someone has just asked me privately about intention for relationships as a container for spiritual growth. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to that point, and I'll actually post it below as a post. Yeah, so we don't set intentions for our relationship. We don't go clearly into our relationships to begin with, and then we get, years down the track and we go, what am I doing within this relationship? What is it actually about? Am I just living with a flatmate, or, because I'm certainly not in a passionate relationship. So I think it's a really important topic to discuss with your partner. Where are you at right now? What are your hopes? What are your aspirations for this relationship? Where do you want to take this relationship in the next 12 months? Where do you want to take this relationship in the next 5 years? Where do you see us in the next 10 years? Of course, we don't know what the next 10 years look like, but we want to have some sort of intention of where this is going. And that is a masculine desire to be directional in the relationship, to go, I'm here right now, and I want to be here in 5 years time, or I want to be here in 12 months time. And so that's what I'm hearing, is that it is the intention, or the lost intention, I should say, around relationships. So we'll definitely be diving into that. Jason and someone else has asked around that. So my challenge for you over the next week until we meet again is to have a think on this, meditate on this, feel deeply into where you're at in your relationship. Where do you want to go with this relationship? Is there, do you have a desire, like a deep core desire within you as the man in this relationship, of where you want to take this relationship? And can you have a discussion with your beloved? Can you actually speak with her about that? I'm just looking, there's a few more comments here that I can't seem to access. It's very strange, so just bear with me a moment. I can't quite find them on the feed, but I know there's 11 comments here. So I'm just going to check in on my phone. So just give me a heads up. Okay, I'm just seeing a few more comments pop in. Seems my internet's super slow, so I think that might be the problem.
Children and work and stuff. Okay, I'm just seeing a few more. Seems my internet's super
slow,
so I think that might be the problem.
Just turning that down. Yeah, so Jason was asking, yeah, it's just not about fucking. It's about like connecting through your heart. And, you know, even, you know, this word around like fucking and lovemaking. And I think that, you know, we use these terms these days because it's in our common language, right? And so this penetrating, this forceful, this like fucking, being able to ravish a woman is like a really key desire. And the light side of that, if you like, is that, you know, you just want to ravish a woman. You want to feel her deeply. You want to feel her deeply surrendered. And the dark shadow side of like the fuck consciousness is like rape, you know, and I, you know, would make an assumption that none of you want to be in that dark side, but it's how do you find that ravishment, that real desire to like really like, you know, bring a woman to her edge, to her full surrender with heart, with love, with like penetrate her with your penis as love, with your penis as being, as your cock as being love, as your lingam as being love. So we'll definitely be talking about that. And I think William asked about that from a woman's perspective. So I'll definitely be speaking about all of those topics from a woman's perspective as a, you know, semi-expert as being a woman, and certainly in the realms of sexuality and teaching sexuality. So we'll definitely dive into that. So I really love all your questions there. And I think it's my internet, so I'm not getting all the posts up, and I'm getting a few private messages come through that I'm not seeing all the posts. So if there is no more questions tonight, I just wanted to set you up for your intention for your relationship in the coming week. So moving forward into getting a really clear container in what it is for you. I'm going to post tomorrow a little exercise for you to do with your beloved, with your partners, if you're in relationship. And if you're not in relationship, you can still use this same exercise to get really clear on what you want from your next relationship, so that you go into it consciously. So you're not just waving around in the dark and just, you know, finding the next beautiful woman or man that passes your way. You're going intentionally into your relationship. So if that's all for tonight, and I'm sorry that I'm not reading the comments live. I think it's just everything is slowing down tonight with this impeding big moon. Then I'm going to leave it there for tonight. And I'll be posting up that, yeah, beautiful, thumbs up, hearts up, great, feels complete, super. Thank you for giving all those hearts and thumbs. Yeah, if that feels complete tonight, I can see all the thumbs up. I'll be posting the exercise tomorrow. If you have any questions, obviously post them in the feed or in the Facebook group. I love to answer them on the group rather than private message, simply because if you're asking a question, most likely someone else is asking the very same question. So it's of great value to everyone else in the group. So I thank you all so much for being here tonight. I know we've had a few on live, and wish you a beautiful evening. We're dropping through, if anyone's into, you know, astrology, big super moon tonight. It's a blood moon. It's a blue moon. Blue moon basically means we have 2 full moons within the month. Blood moon is because we have alignment between the sun and the earth and the moon, and it's causing a shadow which causes it to go pink. That's why we've seen the beautiful pink sky over the last few nights. It is an alignment into the next portal, into the next upgrade in our soul's vibration. It's coming into Leo. It's a very masculine. There's a shadowy masculine aspect. So hence why I see there's been a lot of masculine energy coming up in the last few weeks, and that's why I think just 3 or 4 days ago I started this group and invited you all on. So enjoy the energy, sleep well, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. All right, bye-bye.